What's up in War Eagle, everybody? You got Ike Jones back inside the Auburn Express. We are talking thoughts on Auburn versus Oklahoma. Oklahoma comes into the plains of Jordan-Hare, bringing their 3-1 record versus Auburn's 2-2 record. Both teams without a win so far in the conference. Can Auburn find a way to generate some offense versus this vaunted Oklahoma defense? That's the question on the minds of all the Auburn fans. Before we get into this too deep, make sure that you guys go ahead and share this content with somebody out there on social media, internet, wherever you're sharing stuff, and bring them over there by your phone while you're watching. Say, hey, come check this out. Hear what this guy's talking about. Definitely want you guys to do that, and like the video, hit a thumbs up on that. Let's get into the head-to-head versus the with these two teams, and when you see that, Coach Hugh Freeze here takes an offense that is scoring 36.5 points per game right now, which, again, that's bolstered by the games versus the two non-con opponents in the outside the P4, right? Because you didn't score but 14 points in the other two games that were against Power Force, but still putting up some points out there. Total offense, 462 yards per game, again, being bolstered by those two games versus New Mexico and Alabama A&M. Passing yards at 284 and rushing yards at 178. Oklahoma, on the other hand, they've gone against some teams that are outside the Power Four, but they've had a rough go at it this season. Trying to figure out offense. Only 299.5 yards per game and only 29 points per game, even with the offensive explosion in the first game versus Temple. 171.3 yards per game passing and 128.3 yards rushing per game. The defenses are the ones that are going to be making the story here. Auburn only surrendering 16.75 points per game despite losing two games. Didn't look terrible defensively. Didn't look terrible defensively in either of those games. Oklahoma, only 12.5 points per game being surrendered. This defense has been absolutely suffocating a top 30 defense in the country. Right now, the ESPN matchup predictor, the FPI, has Oklahoma winning this game with 54.4% chance of that happening. And the line right now has moved slightly in favor of Oklahoma from 2.5 to now 3. It's basically a game where people are expecting the Oklahoma defense to do some things. And so we will see what happens inside the confines of Jordan-Hare Stadium, whether Auburn can figure out something offensively to be able to help their defense not feel like they've got to go and rescue the game again. We look at the premium stats brought to you by Vintage 2298 Butcher Shop and Restaurant. You see the passing yards leader for Auburn is Peyton Thorne, still at 700 yards on the season, passing at 57.1%. Not great numbers there. Jarquez Hunter, 340 yards on the season with 7.1 yards per touch. Got to get Jarquez Hunter more involved in this offense this week. Keandre Lambert-Smith, another solid game, a really great game, actually, versus Arkansas, up to 338 receiving yards on the season, 28.2 yards per catch. Jaron Thompson extends his lead in tackles on the season with 22, and he also has an interception, tied with a couple of guys, but Jaron Thompson, the leader of that defense so far this season. Jackson Arnold, who will not be starting for Oklahoma this game, is the passing leader because he has started the first 4 games for Oklahoma. 538 yards on just 59.8% passing. Javante Barnes, the running back there, 138 yards. Interestingly enough, he is tied with Jackson Arnold for the number of yards on the season so far. Javante Barnes at 3.5 yards per attempt. Deion Burks, the wide receiver, going to be out this game, according to the availability report released most recently. 201 yards on the season with 7.7 per catch. Danny Stutzman, the standout linebacker there for Oklahoma, 23 tackles on the season. And Billy Bowman Jr., the defensive back, with an interception, tied for the lead there at Oklahoma with that statistic. Listen, this game, again, is going to be a defensive battle, but to talk a little bit more about what Auburn fans can expect, I got an opportunity to sit down with my guy over at Locked On Sooners, and that's my guy Jay over there. So let's peek in on that conversation and hear what Jay has to say about the Oklahoma Sooners versus the Auburn Tigers. Oklahoma Sooners. Jay, it's almost time, man. we met out there at media days, and we said we
Yeah.
would come and sit down and have this conversation at some point in time, and we are almost here. How you feeling about it?
I feel good, man. I'm excited. First road game in the SEC for the
Yeah.
Sooners.
Yeah.
I will be making the trip, so
Okay.
I fly out tomorrow night. Thank goodness, because y'all getting rain and stuff there, and
Yeah.
I ain't trying to be a part of that hurricane stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, the rain is a thing, but it should be done by game time. So everything should be maybe a little sloppy out there, but everything should be okay. Let's talk about the Oklahoma Sooners, though, right? Going into the season, the defense was supposed to be the strength of this team. That
Yeah.
seems to still be the case, that the defense is the strength of this team. But I don't know that anybody anticipated the offense struggling quite this much. QB change is already here. Listen, we know all about QB changes over here on the plains, so can't say too much about that. But how are people feeling about the young prodigy there now taking over at the helm of this offense?
To be honest, there's a lot more excitement now with this. I put it this way. A lot of people are still sad at the Jackson Arnold experiment. It's not gone very well. I mean, he was a 5-star plus player, National Gatorade Player of the Year. Dude killed it down there in Texas, right? And then, of course, unfortunately, coming in, there was going to be a refresh of the offensive line. But because we were bringing back veteran skills positions, we expected him to have some growing pains, but figure it out. Well, he's had 4 centers in 4 games. Right? He had 4 centers in 3 games actually before that, and about 14 different combinations of offensive linemen because can't nobody stay healthy. Then at insult to injury, our top 4 wide receivers ain't played this year. So we're starting with young wide receivers with 1 veteran in Deion Burks who transferred in, and Jackson had to figure it out. It didn't work. Turnovers, bad decisions, just didn't go down. So now we need to simplify things. Bringing in Michael Hawkins, true freshman out of North Texas, out of Frisco area. And the kid's explosive, right? His dad, Michael Hawkins Sr., played for Brent Venables. He played corner for him at Oklahoma, played in the NFL for a few years. So Michael's been around that NFL atmosphere and mindset of going in there and taking what you want. So the feeling around Sooner Nation is, all right, we got ourselves a dude that's going to spark us. We just hope he can give us something competent, because the way this defense is playing with this hair on fire, a competent offense will make this team dangerous.
Yeah, this sounds so much like Auburn. It's scary.
It's terrifying.
Yeah. This I could copy and paste this exact sentiment into an Auburn chat, and you would swear I was talking about Auburn, minus the fact that there is not a new quarterback. I think that's got people. Well, let's rewind a week ago when you had Hank Brown come in. Maybe people were feeling like, okay, the offense gets a refresh. So you guys are like a week behind us as far as maybe we've got something going on here.
Yeah, true.
And hopefully you will be, for my sake as an Auburn fan, in the same place that we are right now, not knowing what we're going to do because it didn't work in that first outing with the new quarterback. But let's continue down the Hawkins train, because I've heard people try to compare him to Jalen Hurts. And is that an accurate comparison?
In his way, the way that he plays, his play set, honestly, yeah, that's okay. What you kind of see out of him, right?
Not physically, right? Because Jalen Hurts is a physical freak. Like he's
no. He's not squatting 600 pounds, right? Yeah, we're not. His nickname ain't squats, right? He's not doing the 1 yard tush push. That's not his thing. But as far as athleticism and the way that he throws it, it's very similar as far as skill set. Put it this way, it's very similar to young Jalen Hurts, right? The young one at Alabama. Gotcha. And I think that Hawkins is a little bit more accurate at his young age, but skill set of the young Jalen Hurts at Alabama, they're very similar.
Okay. All right. So, listen, Auburn has had their fill of athletic quarterbacks come into the Plains these last few weeks. And I think they're looking for some retribution of like, hey, we can actually play against one of these guys. But it's going to be interesting to see what the Oklahoma offense now looks like in this more simplified, probably a run-heavy version that's going to have a lot of read option looks as opposed to the RPO that they were doing before. I would assume they're going to let that young man's legs be a big part of the game plan coming into this game. But let's talk about a couple of things along the offensive line, because that's really been where the struggle has been with Oklahoma so far this season. Just the shuffling that's happened in the offensive line there with Oklahoma. How are you feeling about, if things are simplified, how this offensive line can do on their first true road test here? I mean, this is the first SEC road game of the season for this team. So how do you feeling like they're going to be able to perform?
Yeah, so if based upon what Brent Venables said earlier this week in his press conference, that we do simplify the offense and make it to where Michael Hawkins doesn't have to make too many decisions, which means probably eliminating the RPO to start, I think the line will be better, because the toughest part about the RPO is if you don't have chemistry or cohesion with your line mates, you're going to think pass and do something. They're going to think, probably run and go a different direction, right? And then it's going to leave a big old gaping hole for a linebacker to run right down the middle and level your quarterback or level your running back, just because that chemistry isn't there yet. Now we're starting to get some guys back, like one offensive lineman, Troy Everett, who's our backup center, also plays guard. He's not on our injury report anymore. He's been on an injury report since spring. Branson Hickman, the starting center, he's no longer on the injury report. That's a very big plus. And then one of our tackles, Jake Taylor, is questionable. Probable. So there's a chance he could play, but I don't expect it. By having Troy Everett slide in that left guard next to Branson Hickman, two guys that now know the entire offense, veteran-wise, Jake Sexton at the left tackle, he's solid when he's not having to, communicate for everybody on the line. And then I think that there'll be a little bit more cohesion with this group of people, because they've actually practiced together in the past. Going into this, dealing with all the injuries, I mean, we had Branson Hickman as well as Troy Everett out most of the fall. And then you had Joshua Bates, who's our redshirt freshman. I hate playing freshmen or redshirt freshmen because I have fear of them making freshman mistakes. But sometimes you ain't got a choice when everybody ain't healthy.
Right.
To me, simplifying things, knowing exactly what you need to do, they'll be able to execute in that capacity. Because I still have faith in our offensive line coach, Bill Beatonbow, who's got some of the highest paid linemen in the NFL right now.
Yeah, Oklahoma has done well along the offensive line, and it's been weird seeing an Oklahoma team
that
can't run the football more effectively. I don't know that. I don't know the last time I even remember that being a thing for Oklahoma football. So definitely
fair point.
The last thing about the offense is the wide receiver position. You've talked about the injuries up front. The injuries seem to be piling up in the skill positions as well. Now he's listed as questionable on this availability report. I don't expect Deion Burks to miss this game. But what are you feeling like is going? What are going to be the availability of the pass catching targets for Michael Hawkins when he goes out there?
So the plus and minus here is this. Like with Deion Burks, I expect him to play. He has a bruised quad, and you can see when he kind of limped out of the game at one point against Tennessee. He ended up going back and playing, but supposedly his leg got swole up a little bit because he got hit. Now the dude's got massive quads anyway. He squats like almost 600 pounds, which is absurd for his size. But hey, we had Jalen Hurts at one point, right?
Right.
And so, but no, he's expected to go ahead and try to give it a go. But the good thing here is Michael Hawkins has worked with wide receivers Jaquez Petaway. He's worked with J.J. Hester. He's worked with Brendan Thompson. He's worked with Zion Rajan, some of the young guys, Zion Kearney, the younger guys, because they were all part of like the second team.
Right.
So these are the dudes he's used to.
Right.
And we saw Petaway actually step up against Tennessee when Michael Hawkins got in there. He started to hit him in some stride. So for us, now that he's playing kind of with the guys that he was practicing with anyway, maybe a positive. The only negative that comes from that is you're playing a whole bunch of young dudes, right? And so young dudes still don't grasp the concepts and the speeds of the collegiate level. High school, you're just better than everybody, right? Your heads and tails above them, and you just go do what you want. College, you're on a more level playing field. And so now they need to understand spacing, understand gap schemes, understanding blocking, understanding clearing out so somebody can catch the ball underneath.
Right.
All of that stuff's got to come into play. But if we simplify the offense, I expect for them to be able to contribute in a good way. If anything, like I said, the main thing we care about, give me competence. Just keep the ball for longer than 3 plays. If you can do that, I think we'll be fine.
Okay. Yeah. I'm. This is going to be an interesting game because again, you're saying you're speaking the Auburn language right now in terms of what you're hoping for from your offense. Before we flip it over to talk a little bit about the defense, definitely got to give a quick shout out to today's show sponsor, which is Joy Mode. Hey, if your offensive game in the bedroom needs a little help, you need a little bit more confidence, a little bit more competence. Well, we can't help you with the competency but Joy Mode can definitely help you with your confidence. Head over to tryjoymode.com. Use code rapport. That'll get you 20% off plus free shipping when you go over there for confidence in the bedroom, support of all of your cardiovascular needs. Joy Mode has you covered. Again, use code rapport when you go to tryjoymode.com. You get 20% off plus free shipping. Let's go and talk a little bit about defense. Joy Mode can't help you with your defense, but maybe Brent Venables and his staff have a defense that's able to come and do something against an offense for Auburn that has turned the ball over a lot, but also been explosive, right? And so there are things that, you have to guard against. How do you feel? Give me a name at every level.
Okay, I can definitely do that.
At the first level, second level, third level, a name that Auburn fans are going to hate hearing called because they're making so many plays on Saturday.
Absolutely. Okay, level one name that's probably going to be annoying is going to be R. Mason Thomas. He's one of our edges. He finished the
Thomas
Tulane
is an
game.
Absolute game record. Let me just say that.
3 straight sacks.
That was the Tulane game, right? Where he had a sack, and then he had he had 2 straight sacks, and then like a tip
pass breakup. And then he forced a fumble on a strip sack. So
I was like, yo, this dude right here went crazy on this drive, dude.
And it's what we've been waiting to get out of him. He's dealt with injuries his first couple of years here at Oklahoma, and he's gotten himself to the point where he's healthy. He's gotten stronger. He's been lifting. He's put on some good weight, some good football weight to be able to play with. So he's starting to get on that edge. Like he was putting some pressure on Nico in the last game, and it made it to where his teammates could go in there and actually get some slaps on his wrist to get a couple fumbles out of it. Unfortunately, we gave it right back, but I digress. Yeah. On that line, R. Mason Thomas, one to really keep your eyes out for. Linebackers, of course, you got to talk about the All-American Danny Stutzman. The dude's a football magnet.
Yeah.
If the ball's there, somehow he's there to make a tackle or a part of the tackle.
All over the field, for sure.
He's everywhere. He lives all over the place. He's one to keep your eyes on, and he's a name that you're going to probably hear a lot. And then if we're going to go into the secondary, it's going to be Robert Spears-Jennings, right? Safety, number 3. Dude's a monster. I think he's like the second highest graded safety in college football via PFF. He's the one that got the sack on Nico when he fumbled. He basically hit his elbow when he sacked him. Ball flies all over the place. Robert Spears-Jennings has been playing out of his mind. He does a really good job of anticipating passes. He'll get picks. And so, as you mentioned, one problem Auburn's had this year, 14 turnovers. Oklahoma's caused 12 so far, 8 fumbles, 4 interceptions. And that's the one thing they really like to do is cause turnovers. And so they're focused on that. I mean, of course, the explosive plays we have to watch out for, which we've gotten better at. Zach Alley, our defensive coordinator, he's basically a Brent Venables clone. So everything you saw at Clemson from Brent Venables, Zach Alley was a part of that staff as a young pup, and he's brought that exact same mentality here at Oklahoma and working as a understudy of Venables. What he's doing and planning, they like to put pressure out there, right? They're very big on the exotic blitzes. They'll go into a 3-3-5, and then you don't know which linebacker is going to come.
Yeah.
And I expect a lot of that, right? The goal is going to be to turn the ball over. The more turnovers we get in this game, that's going to be the thing that's going to lead to the W.
Yeah, so I mean, you talked about the next thing that I wanted to hit on with the defense, and that's a scheme presentation, right? 3-3-5 versus Tennessee, but versus Tulane, it was more like a 4-2-5, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what do you expect? I don't know how much you've looked at the Auburn offense and how they come at you, but what do you expect that the defensive strategy is going to be to try to limit what Auburn wants to do?
Honestly, I think they switch it back into the 4-2-5. I think they mix between 4-2-5 and 3-3-5, but I think it's mainly going to be 4-2-5 in this one. The biggest thing is that we know Hugh Freeze does a lot of misdirection, and he try to catch your eyes. If he catches your eyes well, he can get you here. Looks like you're doing a GT counter, but he's going to go to jet sweep, and you just get thrown off. having a 4 set up there kind of helps with someone catching on the backside. 3-3-5, you'll get too many linebackers shifting, trying to make a play, and that leads to opening, in which you guys have a really good run game. Jaquez Hunter is one that I've been keeping my eyes on
Yeah.
since the preseason. I don't want Oklahoma to over pursue and give that man any explosive plays, right? That's going to be the death of the defense. And so to me, 4-2-5 is probably the smarter route to go because we got enough big guys to stuff in the middle and be disruptive. Dominic Williams, our defensive tackle, he's pretty good, pretty monstrous. And then our freshman, Jaden Jackson, he's like 315 as a freshman. And he's really good at just holding space, right? Just he'll line up with the guard or with the center. He'll play around with them, and then boom, he'll release, and he's right there in one of the holes waiting for someone. We need a lot of that, so I anticipate going more of that 4-man down instead of going with the 3-3-5. But if they go 3-3-5, I can see one of the edge guys like an R. Mason Thomas or a PJ Adebaware or a Trace Ford backing up a little bit and more of like a 9 technique, and then still doing a full rush and battling that tackle. So the smartest route to me will be 4 down because I know just how creative Hugh Freeze gets with those offenses. You don't want to leave yourself susceptible to, your eyes deceiving you.
Yeah. I think it's going to be interesting to see, you talked about the simplification of the offense from the Oklahoma standpoint. Auburn's been running a lot of RPO stuff. I don't think the RPO has been the reason why Auburn's turned the ball over. Maybe I don't want to get too far into this because I'm going to start getting mad. But I do think that it might require some simplification from the Auburn side as well. And that will allow some of those younger playmakers to get into the game. But we'll see what Coach Freeze and Coach Nix decide to do from an offensive strategy standpoint in terms of trying to attack this Oklahoma defense. That is one of the better defenses in the country, not just the conference, I think. Like you said, forcing a lot of turnovers, and Auburn has been very gracious in appeasing defenses with giving them the football so far this season. So, all right, so let's move over to one other place, and this was an interesting one before we talk about outcomes here. And I don't even know how much you want to get into the special teams portion of this, but your kicker is listed on the availability report as out. Tyler Keltner not going to be playing in this game. How big of a blow is that to the Oklahoma special teams?
It is pretty big, right? Keltner came in and won the job from our other kicker, Zach Schmidt, who will be the starting kicker in there. And Schmidt has done well in camp, but the one thing about kicking is all kickers do great in camp. It's all about how you actually produce on the field. And Schmidt kind of struggled last season. A lot of the games where we needed him to make field goals, we weren't making them. When we just wanted a field goal, he would definitely boot it like almost 60 yards. So it's now going to be on his shoulders to get that mental confidence back to do it. But losing Keltner, it wasn't a football-related injury. He's only down for, I think, a week or whatnot. He had to have a small outpatient procedure, right? So we'll leave it at that until the staff actually puts out there what it is. But it's non-football related. He'll be back very soon. But I expect Schmidt to do well. This game is going to really go down to who's going to be kicking better. With Storm coming through, the anticipation is going to be very few possessions. It's going to be a lot of running and a lot of potential muddiness. Now,
this is going to be old school SEC football right here. Now, I know you guys are new to the conference, but this is what most Auburn fans grew up on. I think it's going to be a tough trench battle in this game.
Exactly. I'm expecting very low scoring as well. It's going to be all trench work. And so for us, field goals are going to be important. So I'm hoping Schmidt is mentally ready for that portion of it to go out there and show out. I think he's going to be a key component of it, right? In the 3 phases of the game, you got to win 2 of them if you want to be successful here. And I feel like I think defense will be fine. I think if we can get the special teams going and, like I said, have a competent offense, just keep the ball longer than 3 plays and about 2 minutes, I think we'll be okay overall and be able to compete this entire game.
All right, well, let's talk about outcomes here, right? So you're an Oklahoma guy. I'm not going to ask you to tell me whether or not you think Oklahoma's going to win, because of course you think Oklahoma's going to win the game. Of
course.
But I want to know how confident you are in that outcome. New starter at quarterback, injuries to some of the weapons on the outside, another reshuffle of the offensive line, and potentially, some interesting things going on in the special teams. How confident do you feel about this game? Are you sitting there like, oh man, yeah, we're definitely going to celebrate after this one, or I don't know. Yeah. Give me a scale of 1 to 10. 10 being I'm flying home happy with a drink in my hand, or 1 being I'm flying home sad with a drink in my hand, trying to drown my sorrows.
There's going to be drowning of sorrows regardless, happiness or sad. But honestly, I'm about a 7.5 right now, and this is my reason why.
Okay.
If we get the pressure on Auburn the way that we did with Tennessee, and the offense doesn't give the ball right back after a turnover, I think we can win this game a little bit easier than we lost that game against Tennessee. That's the most important thing. If you get turnovers, which, as you said, Auburn's been gracious, they're going to find ways to force more of them, especially if it's going to be kind of wet. This defense finds a way to get the ball out of somebody's hands. And so we got eight fumbles this year. I think we got 14 sacks this season, and the team is very, very aggressive on that. So if we can keep getting the turnovers and Schmidt can make the field goals, I think that I'll be going home pretty happy. So that's me. If we can get 2 to 3 turnovers, I think we win this game.
Okay, magic number is we'll put the over under here at 2.5 on turnovers for us.
There we
Oklahoma. And you need that turnover, I guess, margin to be what 2 to 1, 3 to 1.
Yes, as long as we lead the turnover margin, we are 11-0 when we win the turnover battle under Brent Venables. So that's a kind of a key thing in his game. And it's funny because to me, I know some other experts will say this. Turnover is really a luck stat. But you can create your own luck sometimes, right?
Yeah,
putting yourself in that right opportunity.
There is some luck involved with it, but there's absolutely some scheme and some skill involved in it as well.
Exactly, right? And so for us, we have a tendency of getting pretty lucky anyway. Last year, we led the nation, and we were second in the nation in interceptions. The defense has done a good job of keeping that trend in turnovers, which, again, we prepare for it, we scheme for it, while at the same time we get some bounces our direction. If we can keep that going, which I feel like we will, this is the one game I do feel like we can keep that going, just because Auburn just has not.
I'm not
been
mad at it.
Listen,
Auburn has done terrible, an absolutely atrocious job of holding on to the football. 8 interceptions thrown so far this season. And then another 6 fumbles on the year so far, like averaging a ridiculous amount of turnovers per game right now. In the Power 5 games alone, 10 turnovers in those 2 games, or Power 4, excuse me. Now I have to get used to saying Power 4, but the Pack might be coming back, so we get to say Power 5 again maybe soon enough.
No, they'll be Group of 6. They don't get that respect.
I'm not mad at that. They probably should have been from the beginning. But yeah, 10 turnovers in those 2 games combined, so 5 per game, is not a stat that you want to be leading the country in. And Auburn is absolutely heads and tails killing it in that stat of giving the ball away. But the Auburn fan in me is hoping this is going to be the pivot game where that doesn't happen. But Oklahoma is not the team that you really want to try to change that trajectory against. All right, we're out of here, man. I appreciate you giving me a little bit of your time today. I, too, will be down at the game, so I will get an opportunity to see you again down there, my guy, in case somebody wants to, because I know the pettiness of the Auburn fan base. I am well aware of the pettiness of the Oklahoma fan base, but I know the pettiness of the Auburn fan base. If people want to be able to come and throw it in your face after the game, when Auburn wins, what's the best way for them to be able to do that, whether it's in a comment section or on social media?
Yeah, you can find me Locked On Sooners on YouTube. You can find me on my channel at Unfair Sports, as well as on the Bird, Twitter, X, whatever it's called nowadays, at Unfair Sports. And come yell at me. Feel free.
They absolutely will do that. I can guarantee it. I can guarantee it. All right, man. Jay, I appreciate you. We are going to get out of here. You guys know where you can check us out. We are at The War Report on all social media. That is Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TW Report, though, on TikTok. Until the next time, and as always, War Eagle.